Good morning. Would you let me know if you can hear me okay? Is the sound all right? Oh, well, yes, you're right. It is. One more minute left in morning. So, can you give me a message that you can hear me all right? Is the sound okay on this? Oh, good. We've got a few people coming in. I think I'll start. Well, I'll give it another second. Good morning. Oh, good. Thank you so much. Got people coming in. Good start to the year. Okay, before I forget, I think I'll hit the record button. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. All right, well, thanks. I see people coming in. Hi from Denmark. Great to have you here. My great niece was just in Denmark for a semester. She absolutely loved it. She came home right before Christmas and had such a wonderful experience there. Loved the people, loved everything about it. And she did a lot of traveling while she was there. So it was a wonderful experience. So that's one place my husband and I are planning to go do the Scandinavian tour. My husband is scheduled for a total knee replacement January 28th. So I'm kind of hoping that gives him better mobility and that we can start doing some traveling. Hi, good morning or good evening from Belgium. So yeah, so he'll have some recovery time and everything, but I think he should do well. Hello to Midland, Texas. Thanks for joining. We'll give everybody a few minutes. So I also have a list of places that I'm going to be right up until April. I've got some other things scheduled going forward in May and later months too, but I'll do those another Serger Savvy as we get closer to those months. But some fun travel events coming up. Good morning to Italy. North Carolina, Oklahoma. Thanks everybody for joining. Give everybody another minute before we get started. Hope everybody's good. Today, anything close to North Carolina. As of right now, I don't have anything in the first 4 months close to North Carolina, but I'm sure, as time goes by, we'll get something scheduled. So, boy, would I love to do something in Denmark or Belgium or someplace like that. That would be just such a cool experience to do. Reno, okay, Stephanie, I am going to be in your neighborhood next month. So that I'm getting excited about. Okay, I have 1202 in Connecticut. So Happy New Year, everybody. I hope 2026 is a mega creative year for all of you. I've got some fun things scheduled. I have an upcoming class that I'm going to do online, so it'll be available no matter where you live. I'm not quite done with all of the content. It's kind of a big class. So as I get that finished up and it's ready to post for you to watch, we'll talk more about that. Oh, I would love to do something in Denmark. Talk to your dealer. Okay, so just a few housekeeping tips that I always talk about. If you're thinking about making a purchase, which is a fantastic way to start the new year, of a new machine, whether it's Bernina, Burnett, or software. Any purchase over $1,000 and up is eligible for an ambassador appreciation coupon, which is a $100 rebate from Bernina of America. And this is only the only people who are eligible are citizens in the U.S. because it is, or people in the U.S. I should say, because it is offered by Bernina of America. It's a thank you for making the purchase, for watching me on YouTube, and for loving their products as much as I do. All you have to do is shoot me an email with your mailing address and I will send you one. Now, it's not retroactive for previous purchases. I always like to say that in this so that people understand that if they bought a machine and they got it for the holidays, that it doesn't count. We can't make that activate for the coupon. But if you're looking to buy a new machine, maybe this month or whenever, and you have the coupon, yes, you can use it. So it's just for purchases that you are anticipating, not that you've already made. So anyway, okay, so that's that. And I always like to say I am a Bernina ambassador. I do not work for them, so I am independent. So anything you hear me say about the machine or products or anything else, I don't receive any commission on. So that's the same as it's been right along. Let's see. Did a Sue Sower. Okay, yeah. Okay, Deidre. I'm going to keep that in mind. You may get called on. So, okay, so let me give you a lineup of some of the upcoming events that I will be doing. January 22nd, 23rd, 24th, I will be at Stitch House in Richardson, Texas. I know this event is sold out, but I think they have a wait list because, life happens and sometimes people sign up for something and there's something unexpected in a family or whatever and they can't attend. So if you want to get on their wait list, I would strongly suggest that. February 12th, 13th, and 14th, I am going out to Reno, Nevada, to Going Batty and doing, I think the name of that store is just such a genius. It just cracks me up every time I say it or look at it. And that's going to be an event. I think they're expecting like 120 or so people, something like that. So that is February 12th, 13th, 14th. Then I will be at Authorized Sew and Vac in Fresno, California. That is March 26th, 27th, 28th. I have never been to Authorized, so that'll be a fun experience. Then, right, just kind of back to back on that, March 31st and April 1st, I will be at Creative Sewing in Geneva, Illinois. So, and I've heard wonderful things about Geneva. Hi from Kentucky, Texas. Thanks for joining. And then, as I mentioned, I have an upcoming class. Also in April, I am doing an event for Gloria Horn Sewing Studio, and I didn't write the dates down on that, but I think it goes from April 14th to the 21st, and I know that Saturday and Sunday, whether it's the 18th and 19th, there are no classes. It's kind of an unusual schedule. But that brings me up to January, February, March, and April. So let me just check in here. Redmond, Washington, Texas, Kentucky. Going Batty are nice people, nice store. Oh, good. I'm excited. Yeah. And this will be my first time in Nevada. There are a few states I've never been to. There are some that I've been to a million times. I've been a lot of places in the world, different countries, but there are a few states that I haven't been to, and Nevada is one of them. So I am looking forward to that. Hi, Dexter from Portland, Oregon. Another great place to be. I've been there a couple of times to do events. Super, super nice city and people and all sorts of stuff. So, what I wanted to do today, since it is January, is I want feedback from you, my viewers and followers. I want to know, what would you like me to demonstrate? What kind of a class would you like me to teach in 2026, or even going forward from that? Also, if you have questions, or you want to see a technique demonstrated, or have questions about how to set up your machine. And it doesn't matter whether you're working on a Bernina, if you've got a Baby Lock, a Juki, Janome, whatever you have, I'll be happy to answer your questions for you. But I also have a new product to show you too. But mainly, what I wanted to talk about today is, what do you want me to show you or teach you? I am open to any and all suggestions. And again, it doesn't matter what machine you have. If you need an explanation about something on, say, your Baby Lock, say the stitch selector, that always seems to be something that people don't quite have a handle on all the time. How does that work? I'll tell you about that too. But anything is, something that you can put out and send to me as a suggestion. If you want to shoot me an email with your suggestion for a topic, technique, whatever, it's gail@gailpatrice.com. So I can do it as a Serger Savvy. I can do it as a Serger tip clip. However, whatever format works for you is going to be fine with me, as long as it works in that. I'll pick the best format for showing whatever. Hey, Celeste from Santa Rosa. Good that you were able to join. Thanks. Celeste and I were just emailing back and forth this morning about something with a question. So anyway, but I do have something new that I want to show you. And this is not, I don't think it's quite out on the market yet, but it's a great product to keep in mind. I do not sell this. I just want to make sure that you understand that. I don't sell this. It's called the Trim Bin Plus. I'm going to show it to you right here. And it is fantastic. And it's about, I think it's about 10% larger than our regular trim bins that catch the thread and fabric that gets trimmed off as we're serging. But this one has a few added benefits to it. Let me just show it to you like this. It has a compartment where you can put your scissors, a ruler, your tweezers, but this is the genius part of this whole thing. It has this little compartment that comes out. And how many times have you popped your Wonder Clips, as you're stitching along, and you throw them in your trim bin, and then it's loaded with thread and fabric and everything else, and you turn it over, dump it in your wastebasket, and you forget that you had Wonder Clips in there, or pins, or whatever else that you put in there. Even, honestly, I think I just lost a presser foot doing that in December. And so this is really kind of genius, because you can take it out and you're not going to lose anything. And I also keep my little seam guide in there too. So that is really clever, and it just hooks on your machine the same exact way. If you've got a Bernina, it just hooks on the exact same way. Let me see if you can see it over here. Let me see. Maybe I can turn this camera a little bit. Let me see if that'll show you. Whoops, almost. It's kind of dark. Let me just, let me get better. There you go. Those are threads that are hanging over here. But see, it works really well. And you can put the things that you don't want to throw away right in here. Take this out and you haven't lost them. And this is nice too. And there is also another little piece, and I haven't put this on my machine yet. It goes right on the side, which is really cool. Let me just show you a picture that they have. that you can put this right on the side of your machine. You can put, say, your screwdriver, scissors, things like that right up there too. The reason I haven't put it on my machine yet is because I have my locking fork hanging on one of those little command strip hooks. And I have to move that and put this on and then put this one back. But anyway, it's just a great thing. They also make it, I guess it comes, I have the red one, as you can see, but it comes in black and white as well for the Bernina. They also have a white one that will work on your baby lock. They have a couple of different models for the different baby lock machines. So, you know, no matter what machine you have, if you don't have a trim bin that has that removable little compartment for the things that you don't want to toss out, hello, this is a great alternative. The person who made that, the couple, Barbara and Ron Goldkorn, they had a very successful store in Austin, Texas, called So Much More. They retired from that a couple of years ago. Barbara teaches Serger classes as well around the country. And so this is just something they've been working on, and they sent me a test one to see how I liked it, and I love it. I think it's just genius. And so I think it will be available through your dealer. And I think they are getting set up for their e-commerce where you can get it directly from them. How does it attach? It attaches the same way your other trim bin does. It has the little hooks on the back. And if you have one, if you have a baby lock machine or one of those, I think it just slides in. I don't think there are openings on the front of the Ovation or Triumph for the hooks to go in, but it just kind of fits in. They had it designed so that it would snug right up into exactly the same space as it does on the Bernina. So it's a fantastic little thing to keep an eye out for, and you can ask your dealer about it. And as I said, I think they're getting set up for e-commerce on their website as well. So keep an eye out for that. But I just wanted to show it to you because I think it's really a great product. Also, this little side piece where you can put your scissors or other things too, that just sticks on with one of those 3M strips. I still have the paper on mine so that it's not getting stuck on my table or anything. So anyway, so that's the trim bin. And what else? I hope you all saw my latest Serger tip clip. I was showing thread fusion for a needle, and I used a top stitch needle and 4 machine embroidery weight threads, and I can show you what it looked like on here. I have a different I was using this to get my focus correct on my close-up camera. So that's thread fusion with 3 12-weight threads, narrow cover stitch, chain stitch. But here is the reverse flat lock ladders, and there are 4 different machine embroidery weight threads in a top stitch needle for that. So I thought that was really kind of a cool thing. And for something with multiple colors like this batik, it picks up all of them, which I think is really kind of nice. And you can see as you go along the different colors that come to the forefront depending on how the thread twists as it's being stitched. So that's that. And what else? Do we have any questions? Today I wanted to do kind of a Q&A session with you. Ask you if you've had any issues with your machine, or you've never tried something before and you kind of want to know how to set up for it. I am all ears. Does the thread fusion work on the Bernina 860? Absolutely. Yes, it does. Yes, it will fit on that. You can use either the large, which, do I have that right around here? Yep. Hang on. Yeah, the 860 is the overlock only, but absolutely it fits. Um, so yeah, this is one of the threads that I was using on that. So you can use either the large, which will fit, or the universal, which is slightly smaller. Either one will fit perfectly, and that will fit also on the 850, which is their mechanical for overlock only machine. So, and the large will fit also on your Baby Lock Triumph, Ovation, Applaud, um, Euphoria. Euphoria is their regular cover stitch machine. All of those will fit with the large, or if you have one, a machine maybe that has a smaller profile, the universal will fit too. So that works. You have 2 pairs of knit pants to hem, too long for short girls. Okay, so Stephanie, there are a few different ways you can do that. You can use a cover stitch certainly on the pants, but you can also, if you wanted to do if you want to stitch them on your sewing machine, you could, but depending on how snug the bottom of the pant leg is, if it's a really like leggings or something like that that needs to stretch to go over your foot and stuff, I would definitely stick with serging it. Maureen is can I just this on your Husqvarna Amber Air 600? Yeah, you can use this on that. Definitely. I think I looked at the Amber Air and I thought that maybe the universal size would work better, only because there wasn't quite as much space between where the thread stand is and the back of the machine. The universal one has a smaller base to it, and I think that's the one that will work well on that. I think the large might be slightly too wide on that. Maureen is asking, are there any threads I don't recommend with a serger? Yes. Anytime you're in a store that has a bargain bin with threads, and sometimes you'll see these really more in the big box stores, but now Joann's is gone, so that's off the list. But sometimes in some of the big box stores, even if you're in the garment district or one of those places in LA or New York, sometimes you go into stores and they've got these bins with thread that looks like it's 100 years old. Don't buy it. Even if it's a great bargain price, it's not a bargain, because those threads, the reason they've been there so long is because they don't perform well. They're probably very linty, they probably break very easily, and they can kind of clog up your machine as far as that goes. I really stick for utility stitching, seams and things like that. Nothing like a decorative thread. But for utility stitching, I like the Mettler Ceracore. I use a lot of Maxi Lock, which is on my machine right now. I've always had good luck with that, and they have it in a lot of different colors. So there's a huge variety in Maxi Lock. I think Mettler also has one. Who else? Wonderfil makes a good thread, and I can't think offhand what the name of their Serger cone thread is. But most of the time, I use either Maxi Lock or Mettler Ceracore. But there are other good ones. But I always say just stay away from the bargain bin ones. And a lot of times, you don't even have to be up close to see lint on the surface of them. And sometimes if they've been sitting there forever, you'll even see dust on them. Just pass by them, because there's a lot of thread on the Serger cones, so they last for a long time. They're polyester, and so they're not going to deteriorate with age. And I keep mine in a cabinet that doesn't have any light. I'm downstairs in my house with my studio, so there's no sunlight in here. But no matter what thread that you use, try to keep it away from sunlight. If you have a thread stand on your wall where your cones are exposed, what I would say is take out the ones that you're using at that time. But if you have some kind of a little cloth to hang over them just to keep the light off of them, that's not a bad idea, because you can get fading with those too. And especially if you've got strong light in the south or anywhere out in California that has, a lot of sunlight too, Arizona, any of those places, it can deteriorate the thread too. So if you do have exposure to light, I like to keep them covered, but mine are not exposed to any light at all. Also, for my smaller spools of all-purpose thread, I keep those in those little carry cases. I think they're made by Art Bin. Excuse me just a second, let me get a sip of water. Because again, I do like to keep the dust off of them. And they've lasted for quite a while in there. So you want your thread to last a long time. Cotton thread will not hold up as long as polyester thread. Cotton thread does have a limited lifetime, but you'll extend it certainly by keeping it away from the air and sunlight. So those are my recommendations for that. Probably, I think Superior also has some very good threads. There are a bunch of good brands out there. But Madeira and Maxilock are my go-to ones. And the reason I go with Maxilock a lot is because they have a huge selection of colors. And recently, I did have, on that same vein, I did have a woman who is a brand new Serger owner email me. This is just within the last few weeks. And she did not have uh, she didn't have a big collection of Serger cone threads yet. So she was wondering which ones would be good to buy. And I always say, start off with some of the basics, like a cream color is good, a gray. Black is very handy because you can use it either on black or navy or some other darker colors. And there's another one that is made, again, by Maxilock, and it's kind of a taupe color. And it is a great basic color thread to have. I don't know whether it's called a gray taupe or a taupe gray, but it's very neutral and it blends with a gazillion different colors, not just your neutrals. You can use it on reds, greens, blues, and believe it or not, it blends. And I heard something interesting. I was doing a little threaducation thing with Wonderful a few months ago, and one of the women in there had mentioned using, I think it was kind of a grayish, or I should say a heather lavender color. And it was the same. When I saw lavender, I was like, really? And I happened to have some, and I tried it out, and guess what? Because it had a blend of a few different tones in that lavender, it wasn't like a screaming lavender. It had a little bit of gray in it too. It did blend very nicely with a lot of ones. So if you're just building your collection of Serger cone threads, stick with some of those colors to begin with. And then as you find you use more and more of a certain color for your upcoming projects, whether they're garments or home dec or crafty things, that type of thing, then you can add in some of the specialty colors. I use a lot of red, and over the years, because I've serged so much, I've got a bunch of different colors. But there are colors I don't have because I don't use them that often. And that's when my go-to thread is that taupey color that I use to blend in. So can Maureen's asking, can you use threads that are made for the long arm like Glide? I haven't used Glide yet. Hi, Uta. Happy New Year to you too. I have not used Glide, but I never say never to anything, or hardly anything with Sergers. I always say try it out. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't, don't use it. But I don't see why not. I think is the Glide. I think that's kind of like not quite not the same weight as an all-purpose thread, but not far from it. So um I don't see why you couldn't use it. Let me put it like that. So I would say try it out, try it on some test fabric, and if it works, go ahead and use it. Why not? Because you think about all the decorative threads that we use, whether it's 12 weight, 8 weight, cotton, rayon, metallic, all of these different things. The sergers now, as opposed to some of the really old ones that were strictly seen as utility machines to use and finish seams or finish an edge on and stuff like that. You know, at that time, there was very little, if anything at all, for decorative threads with different weights and fibers. But now the machines are designed for accepting all of these different threads. And I've mentioned it in my decorative stitch class and a lot of my serger classes that the specialty thread market has exploded. And I would say in the last 5 years, it's just grown exponentially. And so when the manufacturers are designing these machines and doing all the different specifications for tensions and things like that, they know that a lot of people do want to do a lot of decorative techniques on these machines that your sewing machine is not capable of. Your sewing machine can't do a flat lock. It can't, there are certain things that they can do, a lot of stuff, and they can do embroidery and a buttonhole that your serger cannot. But they have designed these machines, and again, some are better than others, but they will accept and stitch well with it. So I say try your Glide and let us know. You know, if you had experiment with something that I've never talked about or used and it works well, I want to know about it because I want to be able to pass that information along to you who follow me, because the more we all share this information, good and bad, the smarter we'll all be, and it will help us be better sewists than we are today. So, you know, when you find something really great or something not so great, let me know and I'll pass it along. Can I show you how the thread fusion is installed? All you're basically doing with thread fusion is when it comes, let me just I think I'll go to my close-up camera. Hang on a second. Okay, let me move all this stuff. Okay, so and I'm going to bring this up. So it's okay. Let me get my notebook with my class names. Okay, so here's our thread fusion. This is the large. And these little concave cutouts are so that it will fit on every single spool pin position on your machine. And when you receive this in the package, these spool pins that are metal are unscrewed. They come inside the package. So it packs flat. So all you have to do with this is just screw in the spool pins, and then this center hole on the base of the thread fusion stand will go on the spool pin that you want to use. If I'm doing thread fusion, say this one, with my 12 weight threads, I've got my thread fusion stand on my cover stitch spool pin to go in the chain, or I should say the chain looper spool pin. That's on that. When I did it for this, I had the thread fusion stand on my left overlock needle spool pin. So it will fit on all of those, but all you have to do is just pop it on. And on the baby locks, what machine do you have? On the baby locks, they have, let me go back to me a second. They have, their spool pin comes down straight and then the base flares just a little bit. So the large one won't sit all the way down on your thread stand table. But in your accessory bags, there are little white plastic bags that are snap closed. What I call them are Serger coasters. They're gray, round rubber bases that you can put on. And I think basically they're on there to hold traditional spools if they slide around on a spool pin or have a bigger hole in them. But what I did was I would put one or two of those on, then put my thread fusion stand on that, and it would sit on that Serger coaster. But even without that, it will sit and be very stationary and stable, so you don't have to worry about that. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, Maureen says she has a lot of glide thread, so let me know. Okay. Every time I hear glide, I think of glide floss. As you've heard me say before, I did dental hygiene for a number of years, so I always think of glide floss, which, by the way, is not my favorite. Anyway, okay, so Stephanie says you have a Triumph Serger. Yep. So yes, the large or the universal will fit on that. Because my video editor has my Triumph at the moment. She uses it for certain things, and she has one of these and can slide it right on, no muss or fuss. But as I said, because of that flared base at the bottom of the spool pin, it won't sit all the way down on the thread table, but it's not a problem at all. And if you use those Serger coasters, or even if you don't, because I've done it both ways with that, it'll stitch perfectly fine with that. Let's see, the thread fusion, Triumph. Okay, yeah. And so I think, were you asking about the Triumph as far as the trim bin went? They do make it in white with gold, and those do not have the holes in them on the front of the machine for a hook. So they are just made to snug up against the machine, which is perfectly fine. But I just think this thing is great. So you'll see it when I do tip clips. And in fact, the last tip clip that I did, you probably saw a little peak of red when I was stitching. And what it was the trim bin that I had on the machine, because it was really clever. What else do I want to tell you? You all saw the C28 foot for the cover chain stitch. And somebody had asked a very good question about whether that replaced the C27 clear foot. No, it doesn't. Somebody had sent me an email on that. No, it doesn't, simply because the C27 clear foot, do I have that out here? No, of course not. That one is good for both overlock as well as cover stitching. The C28 foot is strictly for cover and chain stitching. So that is the difference between those. Beach Boyd said, Wawak has a great sale right now on MaxiLock, $298 on 3,000 yards of spun polyester. That's a good buy. Yeah, I always say try to support your local dealers, certainly. They need our dollars and business to stay in business. But if you live quite a distance from your dealer and can't get there to get it, Wawak their service is very good, as are their prices. So that's a good alternative if you don't have a dealer that's at a convenient distance from you. I've bought some things from Wawak. I just bought a couple of months ago. I bought a brush. I had bought a bunch of sweaters, and this is my little rant. I had bought a bunch of sweaters later last year, and they were not inexpensive sweaters either. In fact, they were kind of on the expensive side. And a couple of them, after the first time I wore them, I could see pills on them, which I think is really annoying. And I saw a thing that somebody had posted about this particular brush that Wawak sells for brushing off the pills. And you know what? It really works. And it's got metal bristles, but they're pretty soft and they don't snag the sweaters. But that's totally off topic, but it does work. So if you're browsing around on there for a brush to get rid of the pills on your sweater or other stuff too, it does work. So that's just something. But I don't know. I'm a lot of the stuff that I bought, even if it's been expensive, I haven't been quite as impressed as I thought I should be for how much I spent on certain things. But we'll leave that for another day. Does anyone else have any questions about anything, or do you have suggestions and things that you would like to see me do this year also? Because I am trying to keep my travel schedule so that I can stay on the second Tuesday of every month for this Serger Savvy, which is live. But okay, Toodle said, did I see your question above? Let me see. No, I did not see it. But your question about quilting with a chain stitch, do I see a problem with this? Absolutely not. In fact, if you saw my crossbody bag that I made with a black velveteen, I used a chain stitch with thread fusion. I used silver, I think it was glamour thread, the 12 weight metallic that Wonderful makes. I used a couple of those plus a silver machine embroidery weight thread, and I did the chain stitching in the diamond pattern on that. I don't have that bag with me down here to show you, but I love the way chain stitching looks with for quilting. Now, I will say there are a couple of little differences, and if you're going to use a heavier weight thread with it, just experiment with your stitch length. Sometimes I find that with the chain stitch, a slightly longer stitch looks absolutely beautiful because they almost look like little bubbles. In fact, let me just show you something. I wasn't going to show you today, but since you asked about that, I just want to show you. Let me grab it. I think I have it here. Hang on. Yep, here it is. Okay. If you experiment with that, the chain stitching with 12 weight thread is spectacular. You can do chain stitching with your Serger cone thread too. But with the heavier weight threads, the 12 weights, the 8 weights, it's really pretty. And if you play around with your stitch length, it can make a little bit of a difference in the way it looks. And I think a slightly longer stitch, as I said, it kind of looks like bubbles to me. I'm going to put this under the close-up camera and see if we can get a look at this. I was going to do this at another time, but I was looking for a way to kind of zhuzh up a binding on a project, and I thought, oh, I think I'll do a decorative chain stitch next to the binding. So let me just show you that. Do you see this? This is with an 8-weight rayon thread, and the orangey or coral color thread is the thread that's in my needle. So the binding was already stitched on. I did not use the chain stitch to attach the binding. That was done um, prior to it. I stitched in the ditch the traditional way. But then I decided I would do the chain stitch, and obviously I had to stitch it upside down, so I had to be kind of careful about making sure that I was right next to the binding so that it would look really, really nice. But I just thought this was a pretty way to dress up a binding edge. So that shows that. And I have one other thing to talk about that. Oh, Maureen says she'd like to see me demonstrate a bit of garment sewing with the serger for attaching sleeves, necklines. Yes, and that is actually on my to-do list for 2026, Maureen. So we're both on the same page as far as that goes. Celeste says, do I wait until the L890 tells me it needs to be oiled? And she oils her 790 Pro every 2 to 3 hours of stitching. So far, it doesn't need oil. Honestly, Celeste, that's a great question. On the 890, I find that my serger doesn't need to be oiled as frequently. I'm the same. I don't oil my sewing machine every 2 to 3 hours, but every time I go to stitch on it, if I was doing some stitching yesterday, I will oil that again today. But I don't find that the sergers do. But if you think your serger is starting to sound a little bit loud, louder than it normally does, and these machines are really pretty quiet, that's probably a hint that it needs some oil. And you can look, there's a little video in it for where to put the oil, and it's right near where the upper looper is. But I do not oil my 890 or 850 anywhere near as frequently as my sewing machine. So, and some brands of sewing machines are self-lubricating that you don't need to oil at all. Every once in a while, I'll see people who talk about oiling machines that I know are self-lubricating. So always check your manual first before you do anything like that, because you don't want to damage your machine. But that is the answer to that. As I say, and I use my serger a lot, probably more than most people do. And I probably should oil it more frequently. But if I notice that it's starting to sound kind of loud, I'll pop in some oil, and it goes right back to being quiet again. You don't want to over oil it either. But I wanted to go back to something that is really important, and I have had so many questions about it with chain stitching on the L890. And I think, yeah, I've still got time. Okay, so when I was showing you that chain stitching, when you set up for a chain stitch, I recommend that you have your needle in the center chain position. And I'm going to go over to the machine and show you exactly what I mean. Have your needle in the center position, but on the 890, your threading route is still going to go through that left chain position for it, and you'll see it on your screen for that. So let me just go, I'm going to set this up for stitch, say number 16. Okay, so let me go over to the machine and talk to you a little bit about this, because this is super important when it comes to chain stitching and not getting skip stitches. And I think sometimes the threading route is what can trip up people sometimes, because they think if they're in the center needle position, they thread through the center chain needle threading route on the left hand side of the machine. No. So let me just go through that a little bit with you. Let me go, oh, I changed this around, that's right. So And I'll get it in focus for you. Hang on. Okay. Now, I set up for stitch number 16, which is the 2-thread chain stitch. Now, this is my chain looper tension. And interestingly, and I know I've mentioned this before, it seems as though not 100% of the time, but I'd say 95% of the time, whether I'm using serger cone thread in both the needle and the looper, or multiple needles and the looper, or decorative thread in my chain looper. For some reason in cover chain stitch mode, I really don't have to play around with the tensions at all. But no matter what position you have your needles in for a chain stitch, you're always going to thread it through that left chain position on the machine. So let me just show you what I'm talking about with that too. Let me see if I can move this over just a little bit. Let me go back to me for a second. I don't want people to be dizzy. Or actually, maybe this camera would be better to do, because I think you will have fewer skip stitches and get a better stitch quality using that center needle position. So let me just see if I did this correctly. Yep. I'm kind of in the right neighborhood. Let me bring it up. Okay. And it's very dark. Let me lighten it up because this part of the machine is black. Here we go. Okay, and let me lighten this up just a smidge. Okay, so even though I am going to put my needle in the center position, my thread is going to come all the way over to the left chain needle and go into that center position. It doesn't matter. And you can see up here, I always say on the 890, cover, chain, and there's a C in the word stitch. So they look like 3 C's that fell over. So when you're bringing your thread up, let me just show you for an example. You're bringing it, and I don't want to get my hands in the way too much here. You're bringing it all the way up over those 3 C's, down and up, and then all the way over to the left. And then you're going to bring it into your center chain needle position. So I hope that solves a lot of problems for people as far as selecting your needle position for chain stitching. I have always gone with my center needle position when I'm doing chain stitching, only because I find that my eye can follow it a little bit better. But whether or not you're in the center, right, or left chain needle position for whatever reason, that serger cone thread is going to go through that left chain threading route. So, but the center needle, I think, will prevent skip stitching more. And I always stick with an ELX 705, most of the time a 9014 needle. There are exceptions to that. If I was doing something pretty lightweight or very thin on a knit, I might go to an 8012. Is the left chain position? Yeah, I'm just talking about, Sally, I'm talking about the L890 because that's a question people have, and it's almost counterintuitive the way it's set up. But what machine do you have, Sally? Celeste says, interesting that the Skill Hub for Bloom and Grow has you threading using the right chain needle, and I've had a little trouble with that position versus the center. All right, so just go to the center. Some of this also, there, and I've said this a lot of times in other classes as well, even if you and the person next to you have the exact same machine, whether it's an L890 or a Triumph or a Viking or whatever, your machine may feel and just have a few little nuanced differences than the person next to you. And that's just the fact of life with machinery. Not, even though they're exactly the same machine, sometimes they feel a little bit different. And some of that has to do with operator technique as well. But as far as, actually going back to the Triumph again, when I used the Triumph a lot for cover and chain stitching, when I did chain stitching on that, if I was working on a project, even with decorative stitching, I always put my needle in the center position. And that was just because I found it easier. It's almost like having your needle centered on your sewing machine, that I think your eye just becomes accustomed to having that needle where you want it. Of course, on a sewing machine, you can, if you've got the option on your machine, you can adjust where you put it, left or right, to an extent, which I do as well. But if I'm just doing run-of-the-mill stitching with my sewing machine or serger, I have that needle in the center position. So in cover chain stitch mode, but also just for regular stitching on my sewing machine. In fact, my new thing is we had done some redecorating on the guest bathroom, and I had it painted this past fall and changed around a few things, and I'm making a quilted shade for the window, and in fact it's sitting on my cutting table to my right that I'm going to be working on this afternoon. And I am doing some, I'm actually doing that on my sewing machine, but when I've done the chain stitching for quilting, I always keep my needle in that center position. So, okay. So for the Triumph, I did as well. But, again, depending on what you're doing and your machine, I find the center needle position to be the most helpful. But if there's a reason not to use it for chain stitching, go ahead and try it. I think you'll be fine. Also, tap the needle down if you have that option on your machine, so that if you have to pause, like if you're doing a big long line of stitching with that and you have to stop partway through, when you stop with your needle down in the fabric, it doesn't let the fabric move forward or backward, even the tiniest fraction of an inch, with the needle up, can create a skip stitch on any machine. And that's why when you're working on your regular sewing machine, if you have to pivot or anything else, 99% of the time you do it with the needle down. Same reason on your serger. So any other questions? I'd really, I'm glad that Maureen, you said you want to do a bit of garment sewing and stuff like that, because I have that on my to-do list for 2026, and we will be doing some of that. But if people think of any other techniques, or if you've had a problem doing something, please shoot me an email, and I will be very glad to look at it and get it in the queue for upcoming either Serger tip clips or Serger Savvy, depending on which way it'll work best to get the information to you. And again, Serger Savvy is always recorded, as long as I remember to hit the record button. So if you don't catch me live, you can see the recording on my channel. But I hope all of you have a wonderful 2026 that is happy and healthy. I'll keep you posted on my husband's surgery. As I said, he's getting a total knee in hopefully January 28th. Fingers crossed on that one. And so he'll have a little more mobility, I think, starting with that. But in the meantime, he's doing fine. So That's a good thing. We're happy about that. And he's been trying to do all of his pre-op prehab, I guess they call it, with his exercises and everything. So fingers crossed, say your prayers for a good outcome. And anyway, but I will see you on the next um, either Serger Savvy or Serger Tip Clip. Also, be on the lookout in Serger. Oh, you're interested in Serger Crochet, Susan? I think you're talking about like almost like creating that Serger lace. Am I mistaken on that? Where you kind of go around and around and around. Okay. So, oh, thank you very much for the prayer set. Thanks. Um, but yeah, Serger Crochet. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Thank you, Kim. Yep. Happy New Year. But I think that brings us right up to about 1 o'clock on my time. So if you think of anything in the meantime after we sign off today, shoot me an email. I'll get it in the queue. And thanks for joining me. It's good to see everybody. It always feels like a long time, like between December and January. I think because of the holidays, it always feels like a long time has gone by between when I see you. So, okay, I will put the Serger Crochet in the queue too, and because that's a really pretty technique. That's a really pretty thing to do for a lot of different types of projects, table toppers or garment edges as well. So I'll get that in the queue too. But thanks for joining me today, and stay warm if you're in a cold climate. We're in the middle of our January semi-thaw right now. Um, but I think it's supposed to get cold again pretty soon. But I will be in Richardson, Texas next week. So it should be a tad warmer there. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you again soon. Happy sewing and searching.